Okay, so in this question, they tell us that there was a shipment of light bulbs, and in that shipment, 75% were found to be broken in transit. So we have some shipment, and a total of 75% of the bulbs were broken. And we're told here that if 20 of the first 24 bulbs checked were broken, and one half of the remaining bulbs were also broken, so 20 of the first 24, and half of the remaining bulbs, half of the remaining bulbs were also broken. How many bulbs were in the original shipment? So I think what's remarkable about these questions, and what always surprises me about percents, is that there is only one number of bulbs that fits this description, where 20 of the first 24 were broken and half of the remaining bulbs were broken. And there's only one number of bulbs that fits it because we also know that 75% of them are broken. There's enough constraints here to find an exact number of bulbs. And take any of these constraints away and we don't have that ability anymore. So I'll leave it to you to think about why these simple constraints really only define one set of number of bulbs. And that's, I think, a really fun way to think about this problem. Now to solve it, I'm looking for a more intuitive way to solve it, because what I'm going to do is set up an algebraic equation, but I feel like there's always an easier way to think about it. I'm trying to think about the picture of this problem as well, but if you have any ideas, let me know, please. So here we go. How did I solve this? Well, I know that there are 20 bulbs, right, that are already broken. So we know that amount already. And then I know if I add one half of the remaining of the shipment that remains, that will be 75% total bulbs that are broken. So the key step for me was to say that let x equal, right, the total number of broken bulbs. So then what happens? Well, the remaining bulbs will be what? Well, it'll be the total minus what? Well, minus the first 24, because we already checked those, right? And half of what remains, whatever number that is, whether it's 10,000 or 40 bulbs that are left, we've already checked 24 of them. So this number is what's left after we subtract those 24. We want to find how many more we have to check. And this amount of bulbs, if we were to look at this, it's 75% of the total, or 3/4, right, of the total number of bulbs. You can multiply fractions by total amounts to find the percentage. So now all I have to do is solve for x, and it might seem difficult to do that, but a couple of quick steps helps out. First thing I do is use the distributive property. A half times x and a half times 24. I get 1/2 x minus, right, we're subtracting here, 12. 1/2 of 24 is 12. But I'm adding that to 20, so I have that over here still. And this is going to equal 3/4 of x. So now I combine my 12 and 20, and I'll write that up here. So it's 20 minus 12, and that's 8, right? I'm simplifying there, plus 1/2 x equals 3/4 x. So if I think about this now, I subtract 1/2 x from both sides, right? And if I think of fourths and halves in terms of decimals, that means 0.75 for 3/4 minus 0.5 for a half is what? Well, 0.75 minus 0.5 is 0.25x. And that's going to equal, well, over here, a half x minus a half x is 0. And what's left is 8. So 0.25 times what gives me 8? So to find that out, I can divide both sides by 0.25, which is just a fourth. So if I divide 8 by a fourth, what do I do? Well, that's really telling me how many 1/4 are in 8. And I know there are 4 1/4 for each whole. So 8 wholes gives me 32. Really, I'm just multiplying 8 by 4. And that equals x. So this tells me there are 32, right, bulbs in the bin. That's how many were in the shipment. And we can check this. You should check it, especially when you're new at algebra, to kind of confirm that your instincts are making sense. How do we do that? Well, we know that 20 of the first 24 bulbs were broken, and then 1/2 of what remained was also broken. So if we check 24, what's the remaining amount? Well, it's 32 minus 24, which is 6, right? So that tells me that 20 of the first 24 bulbs were broken, and half of 6, half of the remaining bulbs, were also broken. And half of the remaining bulbs is just 3, right? Because there's 6 that are left. Excuse me, 8. What am I saying? Oh boy. Sorry. Let's go back. So here, 32 minus 24 is 8, right? Because 32 minus 24 is 8. So there are 8 remaining bulbs, and half of that is 4. So a total of 20 of the first 24, and 4 more were broken. That's 24 bulbs that were broken out of 32. If we reduce this fraction, we can divide the numerator and denominator by 8 to get 3 out of 4, and that is 75%. So yes, this makes sense. 24 out of 32 bulbs were broken, and that's 75%. All right, well, I hope this helped. This is, I think, a fun problem involving algebra and percents.